Into the Dark Season 2, Episode 2, Pilgrim, was written and directed by Marcus Dunstan and Patrick Melton of the Saw franchise. They did Saw 4 through 7. They did the Feast trilogy. They did the 2 Collector movies. They did the 2 Piranha movies. They did The Neighbor. They've done a lot of stuff. I am a big fan of Dunstan and Melton. So when I found out that they were directing this episode, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be the best episode right here. This has got to be it. You know, I've been waiting for the best episode. I've been waiting for that, great episode of this show. Being an anthology horror series that has feature-length film episodes, I'm thinking with these guys, this is just, a shoo-in, right? So as the story goes, there is a family that brings in a man who's in character playing a pilgrim and is going to teach them all about Thanksgiving. And at the end of it, they're going to have a better understanding of having thanks and be stronger as a family, mostly because their daughter, this is a newer family, the dad and the mom, most recently were married. I don't know how recent, but obviously one of the kids, the daughter, is from the dad's previous marriage. And so there's a discord in the house. There's the daughter and she's going through rough times. She's a teenage girl. She just doesn't want to be a part of everything. She's like, whatever, and this is all stupid and this and that. And of course, as it goes on, the pilgrim, who is now living in their house because he's supposed to be there for a few days, starts to show signs that he might not be there for good reasons. Overall, I'm honestly not sure exactly how I feel about this one. I can tell you I was disappointed. I was disappointed because I thought this would be a home run. I thought this would be an easy, no contest. This is the best one. Probably will be the best one because I love this writer-director duo. Now, Marcus Dunstan's the director, but Patrick Melton and Marcus Dunstan write together. Now, they did work with other people, and I don't know what the parameters are over at Blumhouse and working on these. I can tell you this, though. Having watched this and knowing their previous work, the Feast trilogy, the Collection, the Collector, the Saw franchise, this and that, these are very twisted guys in a very good way. I mean, if you're a horror fan and you're into that kind of stuff, that's the kind of twisted you want. So they come up with really inventive, gnarly, gruesome deaths. And within this, the deaths are, I wouldn't say tame, but definitely tame for these guys. Absolutely tame for these guys. So I do have to wonder if there are guidelines, if there are limits, because it's a television series, because it's done by Blumhouse, because, it's a Hulu property. I am curious on if they're like, all right, we have to keep the gore to a minimal. We have to keep this and that. As far as the story goes, I mean, this is a typical story of inviting someone into your home and them not being a good person. We've seen that movie many, 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 many times. I think where most people will have their issues is with the main girl. The daughter in the movie, it's a movie, not an episode. In this movie, she's very annoying. She's very entitled. She's very prissy. She's very bitchy. That said, she's like a 17-year-old girl who, is in a quote-unquote broken home. So typically, this is how those kinds of kids act, and yes, they suck. They're really hard to be around. So in that way, I feel like she kind of nails it. Although this girl looks like she's like in her 20s, and there's no way this girl's a high school student. But whatever, it doesn't matter. That said, I feel like the way she's playing it, yeah, she is annoying. She is a bitch. But that's her character. So you can dislike that character. It kind of brings me back to something like the Babadook, when people are like, oh, I don't like the kid in the movie. You're not supposed to like the kid. The kid's a monster. That's kind of the whole point of the damn movie. You're missing the point. But there's something to be said for people's tolerance. And even though that character's supposed to be like that, if you're not into that, if you're just like, look, I get it, I understand this character's supposed to be like this, but I don't want to sit through it. I can't stand this little bitch. That's your whole right. You know, she is acting very bitchy. But I guess where I'm torn is I liked elements, but overall I feel like it amounted to very little. I feel like there's no explanation of any sort. Not that I need it spoon-fed, but there were times where I was genuinely confused on whether or not this was supernatural, whether or not these guys were actually pilgrims or they were just murderers who dressed up like them. They have like weird shots where they're crossing the threshold of the house, and I don't know if that's supposed to be symbolic or if that's just to show like, you know, they're letting them into their house. There's also moments in it where things happen that are absolutely impossible, which of course begs the question, is it, as I had said, supernatural? So I was very, very confused a lot of the times when it came to all of that. Also, the family dynamic never really came together for me, because these kinds of movies are supposed to start with a broken family, and through them, not that you have to follow these guidelines, but I think that's what they were trying to achieve. They're supposed to come together under these terrible circumstances. And by the end, I was just like, meh, you know. And I have actors and actresses here who I recognize. You got Kerr Smith in here from the Final Destination, the first Final Destination movie. You've got the woman who plays Danny LaRusso's wife in the amazing YouTube series, Cobra Kai. So, some familiar faces. There's, I don't know, I guess it just feels really silly. Now, I will say this about it, though. It's a Thanksgiving horror, which we have very, very little of. We had one last year from this series. I think that one was called Flesh and Blood, if I remember correctly. And we have this one. This one very much incorporates Thanksgiving as the theme. Everything within this movie is Thanksgiving themed, which we just don't have enough Thanksgiving horror movies. We just don't. And it's always good to throw another one in there. Did I hate this? No. Did I love it? No. I was just disappointed. And this might just be because my expectations were too high, but I found it was very silly. I found it to be very silly and not in a fun way. In a eye-rolling way at times, where I was like, okay, I don't know what tone we're going with here. I don't know if this is playful. I don't know if this is serious. I don't know what's going on with these characters. I don't really care about the arc of this family. So I didn't really connect with any characters. I didn't think any of the kills were all that special. I thought the overall story itself was interesting, but not something we haven't seen a million times before, and this is not doing it any better. So it's just very forgettable, outside of it being a Thanksgiving horror, which, as I said, we don't get much of. So that's like the only takeaway for me is like, all right, well, this is in the rotation. If I ever need, you know, if ever anybody's like, hey, what are some Thanksgiving horror movies? I'll be like, oh, well, you got Blood Rage. You've got that freaking, oh, God, there's this slasher movie. Oh, God, I can't remember what the hell the name of that one is now. And, you know, and then you've got very little. So few. So this will be in there. But just disappointed. And with Uncanny Annie starting this series off with just kind of a, it could have been something and it just wasn't. This season's not off to a great start. So that's my opinion on it. How'd you guys feel about Pilgrim? I'm looking forward to seeing that. So let me know in the comments below. See you there. Adios.